Can we get that on camera? That you're walking by and you're actually carrying his knife that we're talking about?
This gentleman's actually carrying a Yojimbo too.
That's
and
fantastic.
He was so starstruck that he walked right in front of the camera.
Welcome everyone to SHOT Show 2024. I'm honored to present to you the Spyderco new offerings with legendary martial arts instructor, Spyderco enthusiast, Michael Janich. Thank you so much for having us out here.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely.
So you have a low threshold of legendary. I appreciate that as well.
Not at all. Can you talk to us a little bit about what we have new or some
Sure.
offerings?
What I'd like to do is show you some of the new stuff, but also kind of give you a little bit of taste of Spyderco history, as well as what I love to do is educate people as far as what we have to offer and how to choose knives that are appropriate for their needs. So sometimes people, they have challenges when it comes to the idea of choosing a knife that's legal to carry, something that offers all the features and benefits they need, and essentially how to kind of tune those things a little bit. So I want to talk a bit about that, if that's all right.
Super excited.
Okay.
Let's get into it.
So first, let's talk about the new stuff. So we look at the military 2. So the military is a Spyderco icon. It's been around since the 1990s. Designed by Sal Glesser as basically what he had in mind for a knife for someone who's forward deployed in military service. So the original version of it was a liner lock mechanism, had a single position clip, tip down only, right side. So there's literally hundreds of thousands of those in service around the world. People still love them, but it wasn't as versatile as it could be. So literally what ended up happening, when you look at how the military influenced some of Spyderco's other products, it actually inspired what was called the, excuse me, sir, we're shooting a video.
Thank you.
Situational awareness.
Legendary Michael Janich right there.
So the military actually inspired the paramilitary too. So interesting, sometimes one product may inspire something else. You'll have kind of forward and backward evolution, if you will. So the paramilitary 2, smaller version of the military, it also incorporated a compression lock mechanism and a 4-position clip. So tip down, tip up, tip down, left or right side carry. Well, when it came time to revise the military, what we did was we borrowed from the successes we had with the paramilitary 2. We said we want to incorporate that compression lock. We want to have the 4-position clip and essentially take all those features from the paramilitary 2, introduce them into the military, but maintain the same basic profile. Okay. So what you get is basically everything that people love about the original military. So you got a skeleton or a open back construction, very easy to clean. In this case, what we did, the original military had kind of minimalist stainless steel liners. In this case, the stainless steel liners were expanded, which gives it better structural strength. And it also provides the mounting position for the 4-position clip.
Nice.
So we drill through the liners, thread that becomes the mount for the clip anchoring.
Sweet.
So you get that 4-position clip, tip up, tip down, left or right side. The compression lock, many people kind of mistake that as a liner lock on the back of the knife. Mechanically, it's very different because what you actually have is it's on the back of the knife, but when that goes over, the ramp on the tang of the blade faces upward. Then you have the liner portion of it, the lock bar, and then you have the stop pin above that. So what you're literally trying to do if you try to close a knife is compress it between that ramp, which is moving upward, the stop pin up here, and you're trying to crush it rather than just push it out of the way. So it's not only much stronger from a structural standpoint, but it also places the lock release right under the web of your thumb, the softest part of your hand. So there's no way you could inadvertently release the lock when you're using the knife, even if you're torquing on it or using it pretty hard.
Opening packages.
Exactly. Amazon's a popular thing these days, you know? So in this case, the blade is a CPM S30V. We've been using S30V for years, and it's a really versatile steel. Many people don't realize how versatile it is as far as heat treating protocols, that you can really fine tune it to say, okay, I want more edge retention, but more hardness. I want more toughness. You can really tune it in. We've hit such a happy medium with S30V that we feel we could really wring maximum performance out of it. So it's a great steel for this. This also has a satin finished full flat ground blade. So it gives it low friction edge geometry, takes a really great edge. And of course it has a fully accessible trademark round hole, so left or right friendly. Even though the compression lock is right hand biased, it's still accessible with both hands and it's easily operated with either hand. And very importantly, when you're closing the knife with the compression lock, what you can do is Simply grip it this way, keep your fingers out of the slotted side of the handle, and swing it down so it's easy to close and very safe to close with one hand.
Wonderful.
Okay, so those are all the features of the Military 2. What's interesting is when we take these kind of back to the Paramilitary 2, we again talk about some of our new products. What we have here is a Paramilitary 2 Salt. So our Salt series is all of our knives that are designed specifically for use in and around the water. So they're constructed with ultra corrosion resistant materials.
Nice.
In this case, the blade steel is CPM MagnaCut. And MagnaCut is something that is kind of a panacea these days. Everybody loves MagnaCut. It's one of the newest steels. It's a very unique steel. So from a metallurgical standpoint, Dr. Laren Thomas, who developed it, what he did was you always had steels that were had really good edge retention, good toughness, but as you added more chromium to them, what would happen is you kind of cross that threshold to where the chromium starts combining with carbon to create chromium carbides. When it happens, you don't get much more corrosion resistance out of it, and the large chromium carbides start to degrade the toughness of the steel.
Interesting.
So what he did was kind of a counterintuitive approach. He reduced the amount of chromium, but added niobium and vanadium. So now what you have is niobium and vanadium carbides, or niobium and vanadium combining with carbon to form those carbides. They're very small, very hard, so they create a very tight microstructure that makes the blade very tough, but also gives a great edge retention and wear resistance. At the same time, all of the chromium that's left in the blade is basically left in solution, and that's what provides the corrosion resistance.
Nice.
So by actually reducing the amount of chromium and fine-tuning the other elements, supercharging it with niobium and vanadium, you get this kind of ideal balance of toughness, corrosion resistance, and edge retention.
So it's a good steel.
It's a good steel. Okay, so went down the metallurgical rabbit hole.
For those, because we focus on steel, edge retention, all that, and especially with sharpening, this is a wonderful blade, and it's not likely to rust as much, right?
What we did in our testing, it wasn't originally touted. When Laren Thomas developed it, it wasn't touted as, hey, this is an ultra corrosion resistant steel. Mm-hmm. He was really focusing on a good balance of all three. But in our in-house testing at Spyderco, whenever we get a new steel, it goes through a rigorous in-house testing. We do our own corrosion resistant stuff. We have our own capture machine. So we do lots of in-house testing. What we found was we were incredibly impressed with the corrosion resistance.
Nice.
And we're like, hey, this is as good, almost as good as LC200N, which is one of our other salt steels. So we have H2, LC200N, and now MagnaCut. We felt MagnaCut was worthy of inclusion with the other steels simply because it performed so well.
Wow.
So what you have here is a Paramilitary 2. So all the features and benefits of the Paramilitary 2, which it shares with the military that I just described. But what you also have here is an additional texturing on the handle. So for this to be used in and around the water, we added a machine texture as well as the peel ply texture. So it gives it additional grippiness, and it also creates what we call our Caribbean bidirectional texture pattern. So it's based on our Caribbean knives that we have made in Taiwan, taking that same concept and everything. So what you get is kind of a supercharged Paramilitary 2.
Amen.
In this case, we also tricked it out as far as optimizing it for a tactical environment. So a lot of people look at black blades and they're like, oh, that's mall ninja stuff and everything. What it comes down to is if you've ever been in the military, if you've ever been on a patrol, if you've ever prepped for a patrol, you do a buddy check. Anything that makes sound, anything that is shiny is a detriment to your survival. Shiny stuff gets you shot, okay? Same thing with loud, jangly stuff gets you shot. So what you want to do is make sure you don't have anything that's reflective that would draw attention to your activity. Okay, so that's why we have black blades. In this case, it's a diamond-like carbon coating, a DLC coating, and then all of the other hardware, the liners, all the handle screws, as well as the 4-position clip also have black coatings.
Wonderful.
Okay, so now what's interesting is when you look at this, we've seen the Military 2, we got the Paramilitary 2, we also have the Para 3. So the Para 3 originally, again, was inspired by the Paramilitary 2, and it's a scaled down version of that. Well, if we look at the three of them as a family, we put them all together this way, what you'll see is that literally you've kind of got Glock 17, Glock 19, Glock 26. Okay, so literally everything in the middle, when you look at all those critical dimensions, what we call the cockpit of the knife, all of those things that are the same. So when you pick up a Glock 26, it's like, hey, my trigger reach is the same as on my 19. The magazine release is in the same place. So you have that familiarity, even though everything around it may be smaller and more concealable, you're not compromising the most important stuff, which is all in the middle. And this also now gives you the option. Let's say that you live in California, you're going to LA.
Right.
Okay. LA 3-inch blade length limit. So maybe you have a paramilitary 2 because you live someplace else and it's legal to carry there, but now you're going into a jurisdiction that has a more restrictive blade length. You don't want to change gears completely and carry a totally different knife that now has a totally different feel to it, different ergonomics, different deployment methods, and everything else. You simply scale it down to something that's appropriate for that jurisdiction.
And you have all that built-in repetition of being able to deploy your blade.
Exactly. You have that commonality. Again, all the most important dimensional characteristics are all in the same place.
Yes, sir.
Make sense?
Yes, sir. I'm tracking.
So since we're talking about the Para 3 as well, also wanted to share this one with you. So again, MagnaCut, we just talked about the features and benefits of MagnaCut. It's a great steel. Because it's so corrosion resistant, we incorporated it into our Salt series. And one of the first releases that we've done with this particular steel is the Para 3 lightweight salt. So in this case, what you have is the Para 3 platform, but rendered with a fiberglass reinforced nylon handle. So injection molded. This has a bidirectional texture pattern on it, so it's very grippy. It's a streamlined compression lock mechanism. So all it has really is the lock bar there. It doesn't have full liners to it, so it's ultra lightweight. Again, you've got that satin finished blade with a full flat grind, in this case a plain edge. And because of the fiberglass reinforced nylon handle, this has a deep pocket carry clip left or right side. So not a 4-position clip, but just tip up carry left or right side. So it gives you, again, all the features and benefits of the Para 3, super lightweight platform. But this, let's say that you live in South Florida, let's say you live someplace where ultra humid environment, you've got all the same characteristics of this, but in a package that is specifically designed to be ultra corrosion resistant.
Nice.
Okay, so especially if you're sweating all over your knife, you're carrying it close to your body, guys who carry waistband carry, for example, that is really tough on a knife from a corrosion standpoint because you're sweating all over it all day long, especially in a humid environment. So that also is something that we're really excited to bring to market, is not only the MagnaCut steel, but putting all those benefits into a Para 3 lightweight platform.
Love it. All right, pause. Let me just make sure it's still recording.
Okay.
Because that's the most important thing. And we're good. Fantastic. Awesome. It's the last thing I want is for everything to like go out right after.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So we're still good. We're
I
still
understand.
rolling.
Yep.
We're hot, baby.
Cool. Outstanding. Okay, so taking that similar concept of kind of full scale, compact, subcompact, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a knife that is near and dear to my heart, the Yojimbo 2.
Why would that be?
Well, I designed this actually way back in the day. So if you trace the history all the way back, my relationship with Spyderco goes back to 2000. So I'm coming up on 24 years of relationship with Sal Glesser, the Glesser family, and Spyderco. So I started teaching Marshall Blade concepts for them, actually Marshall Blade Craft way back then, had a different name. And I've been fortunate to be friends of theirs for a long time, have been an employee for 14 years. But way back in the day, Sal asked me to design a knife. And the knife that I designed was a first generation Yojimbo. It was a radically different design. The idea of having a Wharncliffe blade on a tactical knife, a personal defense knife, was really outside the box at the time. And initially, Sal was kind of resistant to that. The original Yojimbo was a successful product, but it wasn't super successful. It was really swimming upstream as far as thought processes back then. So had a short lifetime.
A little ahead of its time, would you say?
I would say so, yeah.
Okay.
And what it comes down to with a Wharncliffe blade, what you get is full cutting power all the way to the tip. So anytime you have any kind of belly to the edge, your arm is always going to move in an arc, okay? That's the way the human body is built. If the edge is curved and it has belly to it, there comes a point where the arc of motion of your arm and the curve of the edge run parallel. When that happens, you're not applying pressure into the cut anymore, and you're not cutting efficiently. You're not creating any more damage. Whereas with a Wharncliffe, no matter where you make contact, you're cutting deeper, 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 all the way to the tip. And unlike a hawkbill, like a karambit or something like that, it also will not snag on bone. So if you're cutting limbs, which is one of our primary targets at NBC, we want to disable the attacker. We're not considered with lethality. We want to make sure that we have good stopping power. This will cut down to the bone, but never hook and never snag over.
Get caught.
Right. So again, near and dear to my heart. This has been a successful product. So again, fast forward from the original Yojimbo, 2009, I joined Spyderco. Sal asked me to design a knife, and I said, hey, I would like to go back and revisit the Yojimbo design, but update it. So it became the Yojimbo 2. I learned a lot since then. I also was able to really kind of pound the drum as far as proselytizing the tactical Wharncliffe, if you will. And with Spyderco's help, I really believe we created the tactical Wharncliffe market, because it's something that I pioneered with the Ronin and the Yojimbo back, again, close to 24 years ago.
Right.
And now this kind of brought it full circle. And when this was introduced in 2011, by that time, my reputation as a trainer, I'd earned a better reputation by that point. Not that I had a bad one, but it was a more widespread reputation. People tended to listen to what I had to say. So they were more receptive to the idea of a tactical Wharncliffe at that point. So this became a success. Still an important part of the Spyderco product line. Then we had people with big hands, people who lived in jurisdictions where they could carry a larger blade. And they said, I want something bigger. So that became the Yojimbo. So I designed this, I took this and scaled it up. Unlike what we see with the Para 3, Paramilitary 2, and Military 2, what I did was I kind of fine-tuned the ergonomics of this rather than just kind of extending it at each end.
Blowing it up.
I really did kind of redesign it to a larger scale.
Nice.
So I kept all the critical characteristics and everything, but what I tried to do is to make it so that, first of all, for people who simply wanted a longer blade, these two scallops fit into the hand this way so that you can grip it and it fits a normal sized hand. If you have a bigger hand where you need that extra pinky room, then your pinky simply straddles here and it kind of spreads the hand across these three versus just these two. The ergonomics and everything on this are also fine-tuned. So what it does is it really brings the edge down in line with your knuckles. Gives you that extended thumb forward Filipino grip. But when you go to cut, what I want is nothing that's going to snag near the heel.
Yes.
Because the perfect cut is going to go from heel to tip, apply pressure, consistent pressure throughout the entire length of the cut. So as you're reaching for that and hitting with that heel, it's really going to dig in deep and cut with the full length of the edge. This also has a coarse texture G10, whereas everything else is a medium texture. So for a larger knife, bigger hands, you want something that's grippier that you can really hang on to. So I opted for a coarser texture with this. This also has a 4-position clip. For people with smaller hands, they may draw this out of the pocket and not have enough thumb length to be able to open it.
Yes.
They would have to adjust their grip in the process. Well, by making this hole really proud and giving it a really good high leverage point, this allows you to also carry a tip down. So if you reach into the pocket, you grab the hole, and now what you do is you do a handle drop opening, and it allows you to carry a longer knife with a longer handle that is actually too long for your hand, but by changing your carry position, you adapt and you still have good positive deployment.
Love it.
Okay. So back to new products. We also had requests from people who liked the concept of the Yojimbo 2, but wanted something smaller. So in some cases, this is 3.2 inches as far as blade length. So again, places like LA and stuff like that, where it's a 3-inch limit, that can be a concern. So when Sal asked me, could you design a smaller Yojimbo? Actually, my R&D process was pretty straightforward. So I took the Yojimbo 2 second, fired up my grinder, opened up a beer, took a sip, grind a little bit, took a sip, grind a little bit, and basically ground it down. So what you get is literally a smaller platform, but based again so that all the critical characteristics of the cockpit, that center portion of the knife, is exactly the same. But in the process, what I also did, kind of like I did with the Yojimbo, rather than just kind of shortening the ends, I also narrowed it this way. So this, for smaller hands, is going to be a better fit because the handle's not as broad. What I also did, I have a lot of female MBC students. Ladies' pockets are notoriously shallow. They can't carry a Yojimbo 2 because it simply bottoms out in the pocket and won't stay in place.
Falls out. Exactly.
So what I wanted to do was I targeted a 2.5-inch blade length for places like Chicago and Boston. If you're a federal employee working in a U.S. federal building, you can carry a 2.5-inch blade. So the blade length was specifically designed for those jurisdictions. The handle length was now appropriate to the blade length, but also specifically geared to fit into a lady's pocket. Also in the process, I got a lot of feedback from people on the Yojimbo 2. They're like, you know, that deep hollow grind makes the tip too fragile. It's just going to break off. They never actually owned a knife, but on the internet, everyone's an expert.
Everyone's an expert on the internet.
Also, you have to have a deep pocket carry clip. Why? Just because.
Carry. Yeah.
Right. Because
that's cool.
Right. Because if it's so concealed that even you can't draw it, then it's better, right?
Always.
No. So we had a lot of people who were like, I don't like a hollow grind.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Here's a flat grind, stronger. Great. Get away from me. Okay. Had other people who were like,
I mean, we can fix that. Like, you listen to your customers.
what I love are customers who come to me and they say, you know what? I've carried your knife and I have some feedback for you.
Constructive feedback.
Awesome.
Let's get into it.
I'll listen all day long. Okay. If somebody's like, I'm behind a keyboard sitting in my mom's basement drinking warm milk and I'm an expert. So, not so much.
Not so much.
Okay. So again, what I wanted to do is give people options as well. If you don't like the hollow grind for whatever reason, the full flat grind does give you a little bit more robust tip. Okay. And for people where if that was an objection for them from a reasonable standpoint, fine. Now you have another option. As far as the deep pocket carry clip, what's interesting is when you put these side by side, if you line up the pivot pins, what you'll find is the actual point at which this will rest on top of the pocket.
SHOT Show 2024 coming at you live
Awesome.
here at Spyderco.
Yeah.
Can I just walk right in front?
You're all good, brother. Don't worry
You
about
did
it.
an awesome job.
You did
It was
good.
great. Cameo appearance. We call
What
our
booth are you with? We'll shout them
No,
out.
I'm
at Big Country Sheriff's Office.
Pitkin County Sheriff.
You heard it here, guys. No,
Awesome.
I'm just kidding.
experts in
You're all good.
situational awareness.
Hey, I'm so sorry. I didn't even
That's
see
You're all
right,
good,
sir.
brother.
We'll get even later.
Thank you for your design. This is my knife.
Awesome. Thank you,
Karen-
sir.
So,
Can we get that on camera? That you're
Sir,
walking by and you're actually carrying his knife that we're
This
talking
gentleman's
about?
actually carrying a Yojimbo too.
That's
And he
fantastic.
was so starstruck that he walked right in front of the camera.
I
He was
did. I
just,
wanted to say hi to you.
That's-
Thank you.
that's awesome. Sir, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it, sir.
Have a great shot,
Stay
show.
safe.
Take care.
And again,
You're all good.
That's all right. We'll get even. Okay. As we were saying,
The clips.
the clip,
The height.
the height of the clip is exactly the same, or very nearly exactly the same. Even though this is a deep pocket carry clip, the part that's missing is the part above the base of the clip. So when you carry this in your pocket and you reach in, your hand position is exactly the same, drawing the shorter one as it would be the longer one.
That's amazing. Now, I also carry multiple blades because I'm weird like that.
Okay.
Are you saying that this would be able to fit in a change pocket as well?
Yeah.
So I could carry more blades?
Sure.
Cool.
More is better. It's like potato chips. You can't have just one.
You always want one more.
So this is the micro Jimbo.
Beautiful.
So again, thinking of, first of all, being a linguist, want to have something that rolls off the tongue well. So micro, Yojimbo, micro, Jimbo, putting those two together. But also one of the things to get people to understand, again, like with the firearms industry, you have a full size, you have a compact, you have a subcompact, you might have a micro. When you look at those categories of sizes and how they kind of define concealability, how they define the ability to like fit different hand sizes and stuff. So if you have small sizes, a small hand, and you say, hey, that subcompact felt really good. I'm looking for another pistol. Let me look at another subcompact.
And you're already familiar with the platform and everything on how you use it.
Exactly. So the micro Jimbo purposely chose that term because I wanted people to kind of get into that mindset of finding something that fits your hand well, or if you're looking for something that, again, from a jurisdictional standpoint, you're looking for a blade length that is appropriate for a particular jurisdiction where you live or travel. Just being sensitive to that fact, because again, from a concealed carry standpoint, from a personal defense standpoint, we always want to make sure that we're the good guys. So you never want to start your claim of self-defense with a felony in your pocket. Okay. You always want to be legally compliant so you can justify your actions and justify every aspect of your actions in self-defense.
So that's incredible.
That work?
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing with the Tactical Tavern audience. You guys make sure to stay tuned for more SHOT Show 2024 content, and make sure to check out Mr. Michael Janich. Thank you again so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
You guys remember, be prepared, be practical, stay tactical. That's a wrap right there.
That work?
That was amazing. Thank you for that.
Cool.
That was incredible. I'll stop it here.